You know that coworker who always volunteers to help but somehow ends up taking credit for your work while casually name-dropping their weekend golf game with the boss? Yeah. That was Brad. And unfortunately, Brad was also my manager. Let me set the scene. I'm 29, female, and until recently, I was a senior marketing analyst at a mid-sized tech company in Chicago. I'd been there 5 years. I'd built campaigns from the ground up that doubled revenue. I'd mentored interns, pulled all-nighters, even made the VP cry, in a good way, during a Q4 presentation. I wasn't just good at my job. I was great at it. Which, in hindsight, might have been my biggest mistake. Because people like Brad? They don't like it when someone on their team shines a little too brightly. Brad was the kind of manager who thought delegation meant handing off his responsibilities to anyone female under 35 and then showing up late to meetings with a lukewarm latte and a story about hitting traffic from his 2-mile commute. He was all buzzwords and no execution. Synergy. Disruption. Low-hanging fruit. I swear, he once used the phrase circle back 6 times in a single sentence. Now, I'm not saying I was the only competent person on the team. But when 3 people quit in 1 month, guess who picked up the slack? Guess who was suddenly so reliable and such a team player? Guess who got put on a performance improvement plan 2 weeks later? Yep. Me. And here's where the story begins to twist. Because instead of crying in the bathroom stall like Brad probably hoped I would, I smiled, nodded, signed the paperwork, and decided to burn everything down. Professionally. Strategically. With spreadsheets. Let's rewind to the meeting where it all began. It was a Monday morning. Classic. Brad called a surprise alignment check-in, his words, and asked me to bring performance reports for the AdSense campaigns. I had stayed up until 1 a.m. pulling those numbers. When I walked into the conference room, he was already there, with Amy, the new HR rep who barely knew where the break room was. Not a good sign. Hey, just wanted to loop you in on a few concerns, Brad said, all faux sympathetic smiles as he gestured to the empty chair across from him. It's not a disciplinary conversation or anything. Translation, it was absolutely a disciplinary conversation. He launched into a laundry list of issues: missed deadlines, false, poor communication, he never answered emails, and difficulty integrating with team dynamics, because I refused to laugh at his borderline sexist jokes during happy hour. Amy nodded along like a bobblehead, clearly uncomfortable. The final straw? Brad claimed I'd been misrepresenting data in my reports. I laughed. I actually laughed. You mean the reports you present to the board every quarter? That I write? He blinked. Well, I add strategic input. Right. You change the font. Amy looked like she wanted to disappear into her blazer. Still, the damage was done. They slapped me with a PIP 3 months to improve, or I'd be let go. But what Brad didn't know was that I already had a backup plan. A delicious, brutal, entirely legal backup plan. Because while Brad was busy buddying up to C-suite execs and taking credit for campaigns I built, I was quietly documenting everything. And I do mean everything. The plagiarized slide decks. The personal errands he billed to the company card. The consultants, Red, his cousin and his cousin's dog, he hired with marketing budget funds. The private Slack channel he made to mock female colleagues. Let's just say, I had receipts. And I was going to use them. But not yet. Because revenge? Best served at the quarterly review, when Brad was supposed to present his results. You ever sit in a meeting, listening to someone explain your work to you, badly, while getting praised for it? That was every Monday with Brad. But now, with a performance improvement plan, PIP, hanging over my head like a corporate guillotine, I had a new objective: survive long enough to make my exit spectacular. Let's be clear, PIPs are usually HR's way of saying, we'd like you gone, but legally. So I treated mine like the formality it was. I smiled, nodded, took notes during the feedback sessions, and every time Brad tried to throw a passive-aggressive jab my way, I wrote it down. You see, the PIP required weekly check-ins, where Brad would review my progress. That meant an open mic every Friday for him to document his incompetence, and for me to gather ammo. Week 1, he told me to revise the Q3 lead gen strategy, the same one I'd written and he'd approved 3 weeks earlier. I asked him to specify which part. He waved vaguely at a chart. The numbers vibe feels off, he said. What does that even mean? The vibe? Of a bar chart? I added that gem to the file I was building on my personal drive, brad_attackplan.docs. Okay, fine, the file was actually called Final Revenge v3_real this time .pdf because I'm dramatic. Week 2, Brad accidentally CC'd me on an email to HR where he wrote, "We need to move quickly on this, before QBR. If she goes nuclear, we're all screwed." Sir. I hadn't even microwaved yet. That's when I knew, Brad had something big to hide, and he was worried I'd find it. Spoiler alert, I already had. Let me take you back 6 months. Brad submitted a budget increase for external consultants, $40,000. At the time, I assumed he was working on a rebrand or outsourcing SEO. Nope. Guess who the vendor was? His college roommate, operating under an LLC that specialized in creative storytelling for innovative brands. Translation: a guy with a Canva account and an Instagram full of shirtless motivational quotes. I dug deeper. 3 invoices, all approved by Brad, with 0 deliverables attached. Just vague language like creative audit and market alignment evaluation. The best part? 2 of those consultations happened the same weekends Brad posted vacation pics from Aspen. This was fraud. Plain and simple. But remember, I was still on a PIP. I couldn't just run to HR yet, because if there's one thing corporate HR hates more than liability, it's mess. I needed to wait until the QBR quarterly business review, when the execs and directors would all be in one room, expecting results. Brad had asked me to prep the presentation deck. Keep it high level, he said. Lots of charts. Big numbers. You know, the wow stuff. Oh, I knew exactly what kind of wow I was going to deliver. Behind the scenes, I built 2 decks. Deck number 1, the safe, sanitized version Brad reviewed and signed off on. Deck number 2, the truth. Real campaign data. Side-by-side comparisons of the metrics Brad manipulated. Screenshots of his cousin's fake consulting invoices. Even timestamps that showed how reports were doctored after submissions. I also included a timeline, highlighting key moments when Brad took credit for other people's work. Including mine. The piece de resistance? An audio recording from a Zoom call, yes, legal in my state, where Brad literally said, "The higher-ups don't care who does the work as long as I look good." That's how you get promoted, sweetie. Sweetie. It was almost too easy. Now, I just had to survive until QBR without tipping my hand. Which meant smiling while Brad took credit for my ideas. Nodding as he suggested I'd smile more in meetings. And pretending I didn't know he was actively working with HR to replace me. What Brad didn't realize was that I'd already made friends in high places. Remember that VP who cried during my Q4 pitch? She had just been promoted to Senior Strategy Officer. And she'd asked me to present campaign analytics at the QBR because, in her words, "I trust your numbers more than anyone's." Brad didn't know that. But he was about to. The week before the quarterly business review felt like the calm before a Category 5 hurricane, except the hurricane was me, and Brad was still standing on the beach with a mojito, completely unaware. Let me set the scene. QBRs at our company were a big deal. C-level execs, department heads, sometimes even board members popped in. People wore actual suits, catered lunch magically appeared, and for a few hours, we all pretended we worked at a Fortune 100 company instead of a mid-tier tech firm with a permanently broken espresso machine. Brad was unusually chipper that week. "You'll do great," he said, clapping me on the shoulder. "Just stick to the deck we agreed on. No surprises, all right?" Oh, Brad. Sweet, naive Brad. See, while he was busy managing, I had been finalizing the real deck, the one I planned to swap in moments before my presentation. It was neatly organized, color-coded, and cross-referenced with more receipts than a real housewife mid-lawsuit. But I wasn't just going for drama, I had a strategy. The VP who'd asked me to present? Her name was Carla. She had recently been put in charge of streamlining operations, and she hated budgetary waste more than she hated team-building scavenger hunts. So when I'd casually asked her if she wanted the full transparency version or the Brad-approved highlights, she looked at me for a long second and said, "Show me the truth." "You got it, boss." The day of the QBR, I arrived early. Too early. Like, helping set up the clicker early. While Brad sauntered in 15 minutes late, joking about traffic, again, we live in Chicago, not Mars, I was already logged in, presentation queued, confidence marinated in rage. The room filled quickly. CFO. CTO. HR director. 2 of our product leads. Brad sat directly to my left, clearly imagining the praise he'd collect from my work. When Carla called my name, I stood, clicked to slide 1, and said, "Good morning. Today I'll be walking you through the actual performance data from our last 2 quarters, along with some budget discrepancies I think leadership should be aware of." I wish I had taken a picture of Brad's face at that exact moment. He didn't even have time to whisper. He just froze, mouth slightly open, like someone had unplugged his thoughts. Slide after slide, I laid it out. Not just the metrics, but the lies. Campaigns that had been inflated in the official reports? I showed raw numbers. Consultant invoices with no attached deliverables? I showed the LLC filings, which listed Brad's roommate as the sole owner. Misappropriated funds? Highlighted in red, with payment dates that lined up perfectly with Brad's sick days. Every few slides, I could hear a pin drop. Or someone's pen slowly stopping mid-note. Then came the audio clip. "Let's not pretend this is a meritocracy," Brad's voice echoed from the speakers. "If I look good, everyone wins. Especially me." Cue the slow turn of Carla's head toward Brad. "Brad," she said calmly, "would you like to respond?" Now, here's where most people might have melted into their ergonomic mesh chairs. But Brad, oh no. Brad doubled down. "This is all being taken out of context," he said. "She's obviously upset about being on a PIP and is trying to smear me. Frankly, I'm disappointed this is being allowed." Carla raised one eyebrow. "So you're saying the invoices are fake? The data is false?" Brad floundered. "They were creative expenses. Branding consultants. She's misinterpreting everything. This is sabotage." "Wrong answer, buddy." Carla nodded once. "We'll be pausing the meeting here. IT and compliance will be reviewing the documents Ava just shared. In the meantime, Brad, I need you to step out." The silence that followed was glorious. I didn't even look at him as he left. I just took a sip of my water. Sparkling, because we're fancy in revenge. Once the door shut, the CFO turned to me and said, "That was the most useful 20 minutes I've seen in a QBR since 2017. My response? I take feedback very seriously. Laughter. Actual applause. Carla leaned in and said, "Let's talk next week. We may have a new opportunity for you." And just like that, the girl on a PIP became the woman with leverage. As for Brad? "Oh, sweetie. So, where did we leave off?" "Oh, right, me casually detonating Brad's credibility during the biggest meeting of the quarter, while sipping Perrier and looking unbothered. As you do. Now let me tell you what happened after the QBR. About 40 minutes after Brad got escorted out of the room like a toddler mid-tantrum, I got a Slack message from Diana in HR, which, under normal circumstances, is like getting a text from your dentist on a Saturday night, rarely good news. But this one read, "Hey Ava. Can you come by HR around 2? We'd like to discuss what you shared in the meeting. Bring any documentation you haven't already included." Oh honey, I had documentation. I walked into HR like it was a courtroom and I was Elle Woods holding a pink binder of receipts. Diana and the director of compliance were waiting for me. They had a legal pad, a laptop, and that expression HR gets when they're trying not to look like they've just discovered fire. "We had no idea about any of this," Diana started. "Your report was thorough. Thank you. I used tabs. I calmly slid over a thumb drive labeled Brad 2.0, The Reckoning. Inside, a complete email chain of Brad approving his roommate's consulting work Slack screenshots where he joked about finding new ways to bill travel, a timeline showing how he doctored campaign results in reports that were later submitted to the board. And then I dropped the cherry on top, a PDF summary I titled Pattern of Misconduct, a 6-month analysis. Yes, I really named it that. Compliance guy, Greg, bless him, actually said, "This is better than half the audits we do." I left that meeting feeling like the Hermione Granger of corporate sabotage. Meanwhile, Brad? Not doing great. The next morning, word had spread. Because even though HR is confidential, gossip is feral in a corporate office. Suddenly, the hallway outside Brad's empty office was quieter than a graveyard. His name stopped appearing on calendar invites. Someone even took down his framed "Teamwork Makes the Dream Work" poster. Then came the moment I didn't expect. Brad called me. I didn't answer, obviously. But the voicemail? Chef's kiss. "Ava, I think we had a misunderstanding, and I'd really appreciate the chance to talk before things go any further. We've worked together for years, and honestly, I'm surprised you'd do this. Oh sweet summer child. I didn't do anything. I just held up a mirror and let your reflection do the damage." A day later, a company-wide email landed in our inboxes, effective immediately. Brad Henderson is no longer with the company. We thank him for his contributions and wish him the best in his future endeavors. The classics never go out of style. But wait, there's more. Because the fallout from Brad's departure triggered a domino effect. Remember those consulting payments? Turns out Brad had looped in a junior finance guy to quietly approve some of them. Guess who got suspended? Meanwhile, Carla, the exec who backed me, called me into her office for a chat that started with, "You've proven you can handle high-level visibility and think strategically. How do you feel about a promotion?" Oh, Carla. Stop it, I'm blushing. So yes, I got promoted. Out of Brad's old department, into a strategy role where I no longer have to hear about leveraging verticals or low-hanging fruit. I now manage a small but mighty team who respect me, not because I play politics, but because I get things done. As for Brad? Let's just say his LinkedIn update was optimistic. Currently exploring new leadership opportunities after 4 years of driving innovative marketing solutions. Interesting way to spell investigated and fired. But the story's not quite over. If you thought Brad was going to fade into the background and start selling protein powder on Instagram, oh, sweet summer child. You've clearly never met a man with a bruised ego and a LinkedIn premium subscription. It had been 2 weeks since the great unraveling. Brad? Gone. Me? Promoted. The department? Quietly healing, like a plant finally getting sunlight. And just as I was beginning to enjoy work again, no more passive-aggressive just looping back emails, no more fake laughter at his dad at a barbecue level jokes, I got a text from my friend in IT. Let's call him Raj. Raj, heads up. Something weird. Someone tried to access your old shared folders. Not internal. IP traced to Brad's neighborhood. Eyes I blinked. My first thought, is Brad really trying to hack into the server? Like, with a spreadsheet vendetta? Then I remembered, Brad never had the tech skills for hacking. This man once forwarded a phishing email to the entire company with the subject line, "Should we click this?" So whatever he was doing, it was probably clumsy and dumb. Still, I alerted compliance. They said they'd investigate. And I went back to doing my actual job, which now involved strategy meetings with actual decision-makers and not brainstorming synergy opportunities with Brad and his big yawn energy. But Brad? Oh, Brad was just getting started. The next week, I get an email. From his new personal Gmail. bradh.real.marketing@gmail, like, "Sir, please. Ava, I just wanted to give you the opportunity to make things right before I go public with what I know. You've made a lot of accusations that could damage both of our reputations. I've been talking with some people in the industry. Don't make this ugly. Don't make this ugly? Brad, it's already in Crocs and socks at Walmart. We are way past ugly. I didn't reply. Because I'm not a moron. Instead, I forwarded the email to Carla and legal, who, a fun fact, love it when recently fired employees send vague threats over unsecured Gmail accounts. Turns out, Brad had been applying to new jobs, and recruiters were reaching out to my company for references. And surprise! No one wanted to lie for him. So Brad thought if he couldn't rise, he'd try to pull me down. Oh. Sweetie. 1 week later, another friend in the industry DMs me on LinkedIn, "Hey, weird question, did you work with Brad Henderson? He said you were difficult to manage and had a grudge against him. Wanted to confirm before we move forward on his application." Ding. 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 There it is. Brad was out here trying to poison the well, except the well had Wi-Fi, a compliance team, and me. So, I sent back, "Hi. Happy to clarify. I worked with Brad for several years and led the analysis that uncovered multiple ethics violations during his tenure. I'd be happy to forward documentation if needed." 2 minutes later, "Thank you. We'll be removing him from the shortlist." Guess who still hasn't updated his LinkedIn headline? That's right, Brad Visionary Marketing Leader Henderson. At this point, I should have just blocked him and moved on. But I had one last card to play. You see, Brad was still listed as a featured alum on our university's marketing advisory panel. A panel I also served on. So I emailed the university coordinator, casually, politely. "Hi. Just wanted to confirm that panel members are held to certain professional conduct standards. Happy to provide documentation if needed regarding a recent situation involving Mr. Henderson." Result? Brad's profile disappeared from the university's site within 24 hours. Was it petty? Maybe. But when a man tries to tank your reputation because he got caught committing actual fraud on company time? That's not petty. That's just Tuesday. But don't worry, we're not done. You ever get a message so unexpected you reread it 3 times because your brain refuses to believe it? That was me, sitting at my desk, sipping an aggressively average office coffee when this popped into my inbox. Subject, exciting opportunity, your QBR presentation the sender? A recruiter from Stratium Group, a sleek, high-profile consultancy firm known for being the kind of place that only hires people with resumes that read like TED Talks. We're talking big leagues. Private equity clients. Multinational campaigns. Offices with actual plants that aren't dying. That's Stratium Group. I clicked the email. "Hi Ava, I was referred to you by Carla Ramirez, who shared the excellent work you presented during your QBR last month. Your ability to handle data integrity, team dynamics, and high-pressure environments was impressive. We're currently expanding our digital strategy division and would love to set up a time to talk." I blinked. Then I texted Carla. "Me, you wizarded my name into Stratium's inbox?" Carla, "Of course. You think I let top talent rot in this place forever?" Me, loudly crying face, "Carla, go crush it. But don't ghost me when you're famous." This wasn't just a promotion, it was escape velocity. We set up a call that afternoon. The recruiter, Lila, was sharp, warm, and clearly knew her stuff. She didn't ask the usual "tell me about a time you led a team" nonsense. She asked, "What would you build if no one was in your way?" Oof. What a question. I told her. Everything I'd wanted to implement at my last job but couldn't, because Brad needed to circle back 6 times before approving a social media calendar. She listened. Took notes. Asked smart follow-ups. Then she said, "We've been watching your work longer than you think. That QBR presentation? Let's just say it made its way around. Including to our head of strategy." Wait, watching me? Apparently Carla had forwarded my real deal presentation to a couple industry folks, purely for educational inspiration, of course. Which meant that while Brad was trying to sabotage my career in petty LinkedIn DMs, I was quietly being noticed by exactly the people he always wanted to impress. Lila sent me a test case study to review, a fictional campaign scenario with a tight deadline, a vague brief, and intentionally missing data. I built them a strategy in 36 hours. Included creative mock-ups, projected ROI, and a plan for crisis handling in case the client accidentally tweeted something dumb. They called back in 2 days. "We'd like to make you an offer." Reader, I didn't cry. But my salary history spreadsheet did. It was 30% more than I was currently making, full remote flexibility, plus a budget to hire 2 junior analysts of my choice. Sorry, Brad. But here's the kicker, the start date lined up exactly with the week I was supposed to be giving a company-wide training at my current job. A training that Brad had originally scheduled me for back when he thought he'd be riding my work all the way to a promotion. Oh, the irony. I accepted. With class, grace, and an email titled, "Change of Plans, Transition Timeline." I told Carla first, privately. She beamed. "I figured you'd outgrow us eventually," she said. "Just promise me one thing." "What's that?" I asked. She grinned. "Whatever you build next, make it loud." Done. As for my team? They threw me a goodbye lunch with cupcakes and confetti poppers and a card signed by everyone except the one guy who always warmed up fish in the microwave. I'm okay with that. Brad? Still unemployed. Still passive-aggressively liking my LinkedIn posts like we're cool. We're not. But we are not done either. Misunderstood genius? Yeah. That was Brad. Except instead of a redemption arc, he gave us a cringe comedy. It started with a LinkedIn post. Of course it did. Brad had been silent for weeks, probably busy applying to every job that mentioned marketing leadership and hoping no one Googled him. But suddenly, on a quiet Wednesday morning, there it was. Sometimes, life throws curveballs. But true leaders rise from challenge with humility, courage, and a fresh perspective. I'm excited to announce that I'm launching a boutique marketing consultancy focused on ethical, data-driven storytelling. Oh. My. God. Brad was launching a consultancy focused on ethics. I nearly choked on my yogurt. He'd even attached a very dramatic black and white headshot, complete with blazer no tie and that smug half-smile men use when they think executive energy means I once read The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People halfway through. Naturally, curiosity got the better of me. I clicked through to his brand new website, hendersonstrategiecollective.com, because one guy with a Wix account apparently counts as a collective now. It was full of vague buzzwords like 360 degrees engagement and authentic paradigm shifts, and, my personal favorite, a whole section on thought leadership in crisis comms, which felt ironic, considering he was the crisis. But here's where it gets delicious. A week later, I got a call from one of Stratium's senior partners. "Ava, can I run something past you?" "Sure." I figured it was another strategy deck or a pitch rehearsal. "Nope. We've been approached by an independent consultant offering outsourced branding audits. He dropped your name in his intro, said he mentored you in your early years. Sound familiar?" I nearly dropped my phone. Mentored. Me. Brad. No. Just, no. I took a deep breath and said, with the calm of 1,000 spreadsheet gods, I've never been formally mentored by Brad. In fact, I conducted the audit that led to his termination for ethical misconduct at our previous company. Happy to provide documentation if needed. Dead silence on the line for a beat. Then, that is very good to know. Guess who didn't get a callback? But wait. It gets better. Brad, now flailing like a fish on a hot sidewalk, decided to host a webinar. Yes. A live, public webinar called Building Trust Through Transparency. I RSVP'd. Obviously. Purely for academic purposes, of course. It was exactly what you'd expect, overdesigned slides, vague anecdotes, and him saying strategic alignment roughly 17 times in 30 minutes. But then came the Q&A section. A brave soul, bless them, submitted the question anonymously. How do you handle internal ethics complaints and maintain transparency when your actions are under scrutiny? Brad froze. You could see the gears turning. Then, with the confidence of a man who once claimed TikTok was a passing fad, he said, "Well, I've always believed in radical accountability. When I was unfairly targeted by internal politics, I chose not to fight back because I didn't want to create further disruption. I took the high road. The high road? Sir. You emailed HR from your personal Gmail with threats spelled wrong. I might have snorted. Audibly. I wasn't the only one. He ended the session early. The recording? Never posted. Comments? Disabled. Later that week, I heard through the grapevine that his boutique consultancy had been blacklisted by 2 major marketing forums due to inconsistencies in background claims. Oof. By now, most of my coworkers had moved on, but every once in a while, someone would slack me with a screenshot and of you seeing this, when Brad tried another soft launch of his thought leadership empire. And each time, I smiled and said the same thing, let him keep talking. He's doing my PR for me. Because nothing says you lost quite like trying to steal someone's success, only to become their best reference. But we're not done yet. So here I am, a few months into my new job at Stratium, thriving. My skin's clear, my inbox is manageable, I no longer wake up with a pit in my stomach and a calendar full of meetings titled Quick Sync with Brad unamused face. Life is good. And then one afternoon, I get an email. No subject line. Just from Jared to me subject, blank, message, hey Ava, I don't know if you'll remember me, we met once at Brad's going away drinks, pre-QBR stuff. I used to freelance under his consultancy umbrella. I know things got messy. I think there's something you should see. Oh. I click the attachment. It's a forwarded chain of emails. The original was from Brad. Dated 3 weeks before the QBR, the one where I went full exposé mode. Here's what Brad wrote to Jared. I'm gonna need you to put together a strategy proposal I can slot into the QBR deck. Doesn't have to be real, just fluff it up with buzzwords. I'll plug it into Ava's analytics so it looks like we co-built the campaign. Execs love seeing synergy. Oh. So not only was Brad taking credit for my work, he was actively doctoring fake content to insert into it. He was planning to pass off Jared's generic marketing filler as part of my analytics. Remember when he freaked out about the deck not being high-level enough? Yeah. He wanted it vague because he was quietly Frankensteining parts of it from other people. I messaged Jared, gently probing. Turns out, Jared had done some small freelance gigs for Brad's consulting collective. He thought it was legit, until invoices stopped getting paid and Brad started asking him to backdate documents for compliance reasons. Jared was spooked when the whole QBR drama blew up, but he'd been too nervous to come forward, until he saw Brad's name pop up on a new project his agency was considering partnering with. He Googled. He found the threads. The whispers. The receipts. He found me. Brad told people you were difficult, Jared said on our follow-up call. Toxic. Vindictive. I actually laughed. He said I was difficult while asking you to ghostwrite fake strategy decks? Oh yeah, Jared replied. And that you had emotional issues and couldn't handle pressure. His words. Of course. Classic narcissist handbook. Step 1, steal credit. Step 2, smear the person you stole it from. Step 3, pretend you're the victim of corporate politics. But Jared's story opened a door I didn't know existed. Because apparently Brad had built an entire ecosystem of fake work. He'd been recycling old project outlines, slapping a new logo on them, and calling them custom brand architecture. A couple of his testimonials? Also Jared. Written under fake names. I felt like I'd stumbled onto a low-budget version of Inventing Anna meets LinkedIn influencer gone wrong. Here's the best part, Jared offered to share all his records. Emails, unpaid invoices, Slack messages, everything. I thanked him, sent him virtual cookies, and compiled the evidence into a tidy little folder titled, Brad, Alternate Universe Strategy CEO Files because at this point, it was less about revenge and more about preservation. Brad wasn't just throwing mud, he was still out there lying with confidence, hoping someone wouldn't check references. So I sent a discreet message to the industry group Brad was trying to partner with, Hi there. I noticed you're exploring a collaboration with Brad Henderson. Before proceeding, you may want to verify some of his claims. Please let me know if you'd like documentation. The response? Wow. Yes, please. We've had concerns. Would love to see what you have. 24 hours later, Prohibited Brad's name disappeared from their site. Prohibited his consulting gig with them? Terminated. Prohibited Jared got paid by them just to make things right. And I? Well, I slept like a baby that night. Because if Brad was going to keep rewriting history, I was going to keep fact-checking it in real time. But something unexpected happened after that. So let's recap. Brad got fired. Tried to ruin my career. Failed. Launched a fake consultancy. Got caught again. Lost multiple job leads. And now, he was emailing me. The subject line? Clearing the air, oh Lord. Here's what the email said. No greeting. No sign-off. Just straight out of the gate, look, I know you probably hate me. I get it. I screwed up. But I think there's stuff you don't know. Things that went down above my head. I wasn't the only one manipulating those reports. I just took the fall for it. Ah, yes. The classic I'm not guilty, just the scapegoat play. But oh, it gets better, you're smart, Ava. Always have been. I underestimated that. I thought I could keep things in control, but once you got involved, it all snowballed. I guess I should have worked with you, not against you. Pause for dramatic eye roll. First of all, he should have worked with me? Like I was some unstable intern who needed to be handled rather than, I don't know, the person keeping the team from spontaneously combusting? But wait. He goes on, I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just wanted to explain that I was under a lot of pressure. From leadership. From Carla. She set high expectations, and I wasn't getting the support I needed. So yeah, I cut corners. But everyone does. I just got caught. Face with tears of joy, excuse me? Brad blaming Carla, the woman who promoted me and literally saved our department from his incompetence, was like blaming your therapist for your hangover. Absolutely delusional. And cutting corners? Sweetie, cutting corners is submitting a report late. You were laundering your college roommate through the marketing budget. But the piece de resistance? If there's any way we can start fresh, or even collaborate in the future, let me know. I've learned a lot from this experience. No hard feelings. I stared at my screen for a good minute, wondering if he was trolling me or genuinely this clueless. Collaborate? Sir, this isn't a rom-com where we bump into each other at a conference and reconcile over a lukewarm croissant. You tried to sabotage me in full PowerPoint. And no hard feelings? There's literally a folder on my drive labeled Brad Receipts, Burn Archive. Come on. Now, I didn't reply. Not because I didn't want to, trust me, I had drafts, but because silence is the most powerful mic drop of all. Besides, he didn't send that email because he wanted closure. He sent it because his world was shrinking. The agencies stopped calling. The recruiters stopped biting. And I was doing just fine. Actually, I was thriving. In fact, I'd just been invited to speak on a strategy panel hosted by, get this, one of the very companies Brad had pitched himself to months earlier. When the event flyer went live on LinkedIn, guess who viewed my profile 3 times in 24 hours? Yup. Brad. LinkedIn really be out here snitching for free. So what do you do when your former nemesis finally realizes he's not the hero of the story? You move on. And you let him keep refreshing your LinkedIn like it's a Netflix reboot he didn't get cast in. But the finale? Oh, you're not ready. Yes. You've made it this far. Now grab your popcorn, because this is it, the mic drop moment, the season finale, the revenge arc fully realized. So. The panel. The venue was one of those ultra-modern co-working spaces with fake plants and espresso machines that cost more than my first car. I was one of 4 speakers on a panel titled, Data Integrity and Leadership, Earning Trust in the Post-Spin Era, yes. Post-spin. The irony was not lost on me. I was nervous, sure. But not because I didn't know what I was doing. I'd lived this topic. Breathed it. Survived it. And more importantly, I won. The audience was a mix of tech people, marketing folks, a few VPs sprinkled in, and a surprising number of younger professionals who looked like they still had hope in their eyes. Bless them. Things were going smoothly. Each panelist shared a story about transparency, accountability, etc. I gave my usual calm, slightly spicy take on how leadership isn't about optics, it's about evidence. That data doesn't lie, but people using it do. Big applause. Everyone's nodding. Then came the Q&A. A woman in the back, probably mid-20s, fierce blazer, the kind of expression that says I have receipts of my own, stood up and said, "How do you handle situations where your boss is the one manipulating the data? Especially when speaking up could cost you your job?" Silence. And then, all eyes on me. The moderator smiled, like, "Oh, here it comes." So I leaned forward, took a breath, and said, "I once worked under someone who fabricated performance reports, redirected budget to fake vendors, and took credit for campaigns they barely understood." You could hear necks snapping in my direction. I documented everything. I stayed quiet until I had proof. And then I presented it in a room full of executives, with charts, emails, and a voice recording of him saying, and I quote, "If I look good, everyone wins. Especially me." The moderator blinked. Wow. He was fired the same day. Nervous laughter from the audience. He also tried to discredit me afterwards. Told recruiters I was unstable, called me emotional. Even sent me an email asking to collaborate after he was blacklisted by 3 industry orgs. The crowd was now half gasping, half leaning in like they were at a murder mystery dinner. His name was Brad. Dead silence. And then, absolute howling laughter. I wasn't even trying to be funny. But something about the name Brad, in that moment, just hit like a punchline. People laughed like they all had a Brad of their own. I smiled and continued, "What I learned is that you don't need to fight fire with fire. You just need to bring the right flashlight. Because eventually, enough light exposes every shadow." Mic drop. Well, figuratively. I didn't drop the mic because those things are expensive, and this was a professional event, but spiritually? It was on the floor. The clip was uploaded later that day. Someone posted it to TikTok with the caption, "When you realize Brad from marketing isn't just your problem." Hashtag Brad behavior, hashtag corporate chaos, hashtag boss be gone. It went viral in under 48 hours. 300K likes. 25K shares. A trending thread on Twitter. Comments like, "I gasped. Out loud. At work. She said his name like Voldemort and I'm living for it. This is why I keep receipts in color-coded folders." Brad, if you're reading this, don't. And oh, Brad was reading it. Because 3 days later, his personal website mysteriously went under maintenance. His LinkedIn? Private. His consulting venture? Silent. Like a ghost ship that finally hit the iceberg. Me? Well, I got 3 new job offers in 1 week. I declined them all because I'm happy where I am. But it felt good to know the industry had watched the story unfold and knew exactly who came out on top. And that's the thing about karma. It doesn't always arrive in the dramatic, flaming package we fantasize about. Sometimes it wears a blazer, clicks through a slideshow, and quietly dismantles you in front of a live audience. So yeah, Brad tried to play chess. But I had the whole board. And in the end? Checkmate. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more inspiring stories. And before you go, check out the video on your screen. It's another heartfelt story you won't want to miss.